Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of Georgia Gwinnett College, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Grizzly Talk Podcast with your host, Kennedy Patterson. Now, this week has been amazing because we've had so many RSOs to come on this podcast show. We've got another special guest here. Now, before we get to the podcast, of course, we like to do our sponsorships. Of course, huge sponsors for flexliving.com. That's flexlivingcollection.com and Glow Cocoa. That is our official GTP sponsors for the podcast show. All you have to do is go to the website in the link description below, and you're going to go to the K.L.P e-store. That is our personal K.L.P Entertainment e-store. Click on that e-store. Use the code KennedyLucasKLP to get the discounts of all apparel from Flex Living Collection and Glow Cocoa. Now, let's get on to this funness. Of course, we have the American Sign Language Club here at GGC. And a lot of people know what I like to do. I like the guests to introduce themselves. So go ahead, we'll answer the questions, and we'll get to the funness of this podcast.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Preston. I am a junior here at Georgia Gwinnett College, and my major is criminal justice, and I'm minoring in English. Just today, I have been looking at a school for my second bachelor's degree, which I hope to be in sign language interpreting. I have been signing for 7 to 8 years now, and sign language has always been a passion of mine, and about a year ago I realized I wanted it to be my plan A instead of my plan B. I have reached out to some people here at GGC to start an ASL class. Unfortunately, that didn't really go the way I had expected or hoped that it would, but I decided to create an RSO, so I have the ASL club. And that got started and approved last semester. I'm hoping that it will grow and maybe hopefully eventually become a class. And we just had our first meeting this past Tuesday.
I did see the flyer. Thank you, Stephanie, for coming on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so proud about RSOs. And I can preach about this in many, many shows before. And we talked before we got on air here. I really appreciate RSOs that really come to GGC, and they really bring a great purpose to it. So if you guys don't know about the American Sign Language, of course, it's the club here, official RSO here. It's helping GGC students for the opportunity to learn the American Sign Language, as well as to learn about the deaf culture. Now, deaf culture is huge, not only in Georgia, but in the United States.
Absolutely.
I've seen videos, I've seen TikToks of great people who are deaf, but they're doing their thing, and they're really striving for excellence in this world, because to be honest, this is a hard world that we're living in. So for this club to exist at GGC, it really, really is phenomenal. And first off, I want to congratulate you for taking this role. We're going to relate more on their Instagram. Of course, you guys can follow their Instagram. It's GGC ASL Club. That's GGC ASL Club. It's all one word on their Instagram. Go follow them. They're starting out for Instagram, and it's really, really amazing. And get this, Grizzly fans. They have a Facebook account. Of course, it's GGC ASL Club. We're going to leave the links in our description for sure, but they have a Facebook. Not many RSOs got a Facebook, but I'll ask you questions about that a little bit later. Now I want to kind of dig in a little deeper.
Yeah.
What was you mentioned it in your introduction, you've done sign language for 7 years.
Yes.
How was that like? Did you just, like, when you wake up the first year of learning, I want to learn this, or is this something that you're passionate about, maybe the family member that might have done this? What was that mind process like starting year 1 out of 7?
Okay, so for my own personal story, I had a friend who knew sign language, and she interpreted a bit for her church, so I went to her church a couple times, and so she kind of taught me a bit. I was instantly hooked on the language. I fell in love with the language, and I just became instantly passionate about it. My friend actually moved to Texas, so we were no longer able to, I was no longer able to learn from her. However, at that point, I became self-taught. Now, over the 7, now going on 8 years that I've been signing, I haven't had very much interaction, in all honesty, especially in the early years, in the years where I was, teaching myself. I hadn't had a lot of interaction with deaf people, so I hadn't had much of a use for the language. But even though I wasn't using it very often, I was so much in love with it and so passionate about it that I never lost it, which I think is amazing. It's, for some people, it's not the easiest language to learn. I think that might depend also on how young you are when you start learning it. But it's amazing, and so it wasn't probably, to me it was actually kind of easy picking it up, and I've kept it over the years. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And you mentioned it is hard. I've experienced it myself. The true story, and I'll be this brief. It's not about me on the podcast, but this did happen. A lot of students may know I work in property management. Had a guest to come in, and she came in very quiet. I'm like, hi, how can I help you? And she gave me a piece of paper and pen. She wrote down what she needed. She was deaf, and I was just like, okay, what do I do? So I was able to connect with her pen and paper. She needed to print out a boarding pass for a plane, but I was able to write it down and really communicate. So I kind of wish I would have known a little bit more on how to react to that. And that is a very humbled experience because I was able to help that woman out for that time period, and she wrote "thank you" with a heart, and it really warmed my heart. I just wish I knew a little bit more on how to relate to that culture because I'm not too familiar with it. So it really is amazing for something like that to happen, but it is hard. It's very, very hard. Now, starting a new club here at GGC, I know there's a lot of events going on for spring. Spring is that semester where they have a lot of stuff happening. Do you plan on having a kind of an educational event, letting the students know about also your RSO, but to really help them teach the culture of the American Sign Language and the deaf culture? Or do you plan on big events like that in the spring that you can tell us about?
Well, don't currently have any plans for big events like that. I mean, that would definitely be something great to eventually get to. At the moment, we have our meetings, which are on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month during college hour. So we have those. That's what we're starting out with for right now. We have discussed potentially adding more meetings. Maybe making it weekly. Maybe adding Thursday meetings during college hour as well. So we have discussed that. If we really do get a lot of people who are interested and want to learn sign language and learn about deaf culture, we will also be having guest speakers at some of our meetings, and we also have some events like Deaf Nation, for example, is an event that's coming up in April. So that's something that we hope that we can kind of go and do together as an RSO and as a club.
Absolutely, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
What was the name of that event again?
That is Deaf Nation.
Deaf Nation. Okay.
Yes, Deaf Nation. It's on Saturday, April 4th.
Okay. Will this be your first year going, or have you been?
I have not been, it would be my first year going. It's definitely, from what I've heard, it's definitely an experience because it's completely silent, so no voices. If you talk, you're pretty much shunned.
That's I want to say that's cool because you're learning about it, and it's a unique experience. I would say
absolutely
for that Deaf Nation.
Yes, Deaf Nation, and it's full immersion, which is definitely one of the best ways to learn any language. I mean, if you go into a Spanish class or a French class, that's going to be the language that your professor will talk in, and all your assignments will be in that language. So why wouldn't it be the exact same thing with sign language?
So again, ladies and gentlemen, that's American Sign Language. We've got more questions coming out. You guys are available on Presence. That is GGC's official community webpage for every RSO. Of course, GTP, we're thinking about doing something like that. We mentioned off record. And I want to kind of advocate this more for students who may not know, because they'd be surprised. A lot of students don't know about Presence. When you join the club on presence, you're able to update an email. Now, how is that like? Because you might have get hundreds of emails from professors, project students that are working on a project with you. How is that process like when a student says, "Hey, I want to join. I'm going to go to Presence and join," and you email the list right away? Is that the process?
Well, actually, unfortunately, Presence currently does not send me an email or any kind of notification when a member first joins. Okay. So I try to check Presence on a regular basis to see if we have any new members. Okay. And then what I will do is I have two things that I do. Okay. First thing is I have an Excel spreadsheet in which I keep track of our members, their names, when they joined, their status, email address, things like that. And then I like to go on to this group that I created, this email group that I created specifically for the ASL club, and I will add that person as a member. Now, yes, they will get their email just to their GGC email. If I send one out, it will come straight to their GGC email. But they will also have, under the groups tab, they'll have that group, and it will show that they're a part of that group. They can send an email out to the group or just to me individually, and I can send out an email to the entire group, and they can receive that and get any updates on the club.
Oh wow! Okay,
yeah.
You mentioned Excel, and when it comes to GTP and my businesses, we work on Excel too. I have to ask my coworkers, how do I do this? What am I doing here? Because I don't know what I'm doing. So, and people clown me for it. Even in property management, they say, "Katie, this Excel, come on, you're in college, you know how to do this." But it's really cool that you're using Excel because it's a tedious program that's out there, but you're able to keep track of each member.
Yes.
That's really amazing, and it shows that the dedication for the RSO, that you're taking that extra step, having Excel spreadsheet and Word and even PowerPoint to some extent.
Right.
It really shows the dedication of this club, being sort of so new. I mentioned that, and I'm looking on, of course, your Facebook. You guys can follow their Facebook. It's GGC ASL Club. I think you got to space those words out for Facebook to make sure you find the right pages. A Facebook page. I'm looking at you guys' logo. And
yes.
This logo is really, really, I want to say, I use one of my words, really, really swanky. It's really cool. You have
Thank you.
kind of, I want to say maybe a heartbeat, and then you have the hand going like, yeah. And then your fingers is club, and then it says ASL at the top. You guys have to just see it. You'll see it in the thumbnail for the podcast goes out. But, it's really cool. This is very unique.
Thank you.
I got to ask, it's kind of a double question. Who designed this logo? And what was the mind process like for making this? Like, what was the thought process? Okay,
well, those are both great questions. I have to give full credit of this logo to our treasurer, Megan Price Williams.
I'm sorry. I'm going to let you finish, but you mentioned Megan Price Williams.
Yes.
I just left a class with her. She's part of the Question Club.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Podcast for there.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's so cool. I'm sorry.
No. She, Megan's actually been my best friend for going on like 12 years now, something like that. We have been best friends for a very, very long time, been through thick and thin together. And yeah, she does a lot, as you mentioned, and she's amazing. So she has created all of our flyers, and she created our logo. Now, the logo itself, some of our earlier followers may remember our original logo was simply just the heartbeat and then the shorthand for "I love you" in the middle of that there, and it was just all in black. Now, Megan just totally revamped it. She actually created it all with like vectors, so she created it like from scratch. But we wanted to incorporate the words ASL Club. Obviously, that was number one thing. So originally, she had just done that in black and white. But then we talked about it, and we sat down with our advisor, Mary Siraculis. She's the sign language interpreter, full-time sign language interpreter here at GGC. But the three of us sat down. Unfortunately, our vice president, Kingsley, was not able to be there at that particular meeting. But the only change that we had requested of Megan was that we wanted it in GGC colors. So we've got that there. Yep.
Very important.
And so, yeah, that's how the logo came to be.
I
all
really
Megan.
like that. that. And as I scroll, I do see the black and white. And black and white was okay.
Yep.
But, you know, first of all, you're adding GGC colors. And that's very important for every RSO. And I've seen that every RSO has some resemblance of green and gray colors. That's very important. They're representing the culture of GGC.
Yes.
When we were making GTP's logo, I thought about it and I was making it. I was like, I need to have GGC colors on it because we did change it for pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's something we do true to the heart. But we have to incorporate the green and gray school colors. I really like that the ASL in kind of a cursive kind of. Yes. It's almost like kind of like a trademark. Like no one else could use that. So that's you guys' official trademark cursive. And that's really amazing. Shout out to Megan Price Williams. Yes, I've talked to her. Huge shout out to her. The other day when I talked about podcasts, like, wait a minute, I didn't know you were in this class. So when you first mentioned it, I was like, wait a minute, I know who she is. Equestrian Club, their podcast is coming soon for sure. Now you mentioned your meetings. Now these are important too. I would say to every RSL that have these the meetings to really rekindle and really reconnect to each student because you're going through the week and it's an easy week this week because it's just the beginning. Yes. But when we hit March and April, it's finals week and you know people are so focused on their classwork. What's that environment like when you have that opportunity to have your meetings every Tuesday or give or take every Tuesday? Right. What's that environment like when you see students come in and are eager to learn about your RSO? What's that like? Oh my gosh, I love it. Our first meeting was this past Tuesday, and I actually, it was so funny because I was walking up to the room where the meeting was supposed to be in. I thought that maybe there was a class in there beforehand, getting ready to get set up. There was actually a student outside waiting, not because there was a class in there beforehand, but they were waiting specifically for the ASL club, and we ended up having 14 people show up, which was, definitely a win, definitely a success. I had hoped for 7 people. That was like my goal / hope for the first meeting. So the fact that we had doubled that was absolutely amazing. It was really nice to see everyone and to see their eagerness to learn and willingness to learn. That's very important, especially when it comes to American Sign Language. And this past Tuesday, since it was our first meeting, we started off very simple, had people introduce themselves by finger spelling their name. But even just them learning new signs, like the sign for Starbucks. They wanted to when they knew that Starbucks had a sign, they wanted to like use it. They wanted to know in sign language how to say "I want Starbucks." Right. So that was really awesome. We worked a little bit. On Tuesday, had some important announcements, did a fun activity. So I'm really looking forward to our next meeting. We've already had people asking, when's the next meeting? Or people coming up and saying, I missed the first meeting, when's the next one? And how can I get involved in the ASL club? So it's been incredible. Amazing. That's an incredible win for sure. Yes, definitely. I would love one day learn I want Starbucks. Or I want some food. Or that's really, really amazing to see that the students they're eager to know about it, like I mentioned, and you mentioned the students waiting for the meeting. Yes, I got done with class early and just coming up to the meeting, and they're ready for that next meeting. Yes. It really, really is amazing for you, Stephanie. I really appreciate what you're doing for GTC. It really, really is amazing. Shout out to all of president, treasurer, vice president. Yes, all of you guys are amazing for this because this is something. This is something new. It's something that GGC is needing because this is, it's not nothing bad. It's a culture, and I think most students should know about it. Relating to the story I told earlier in this podcast, not the unknowing, not knowing what to do in certain situations like that, and it makes you feel, like, man, I wish I could have known a little bit more. Right. You guys are advocating this out. This is a resource you guys are bringing out. Yes. For GGC for it, and it really, really is amazing. Thank you. Now, before we wrap up, of course, with the podcast, be sure to follow their Instagram. Of course, that's GGC ASL Club. It's all one word for their Instagram. Huge, huge following there. They're getting it up there, and I cannot wait to see the growth for y'all's Instagram. Thank you. Do you plan on doing like more posts and more media stuff for the Instagram? Absolutely, absolutely. Honestly, Megan, who we mentioned earlier, I'm sure will be primarily our social media gal. Okay. She's really good at that. So she made
our all of our flyers. She made our logo. So she's really good at social media presence, especially if you've seen the Equestrian Club. She's always good at keeping their Instagram in particular just, up to date and constantly posting. So she'll probably be the one running that. But yes, we definitely will be posting more. Actually, someone who was at the meeting this past Tuesday took photos and videos from the meeting. Okay. So hopefully we'll be posting those soon as well.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely we'll be posting more. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. I've seen the Equestrian Club's Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
She does it great. She really does it on the Instagram for Equestrian. And I gotta ask if she did their logo too, because they had an older logo that was, it was great, but this new logo that they had for about a year, I want to say, really is amazing. So I gotta ask her, did you do that logo too?
I'm 99.9% sure she did, yeah.
I've got to ask her about that. Now, before we officially wrap up, on every podcast, we like to do what we call shout-outs. Of course, you can shout out your friends, your families, of course, the RSO.
Yes.
Your loved ones, maybe your significant other. We had a guest that shouted out her dog. And
I love that.
I love dogs too. And
yes.
I forgot what she said her dog. It was a cute name she had. She named it. And she loved her dog. She shouted out another 5 minutes shouting out her dog. So the floor is yours for your shout out, Stephanie.
Well, before I do that, do you mind if I just share just a little bit more with the club? Because there are just a few things that I would like to say about the ASL club. Right. Once again, I mentioned earlier that we meet the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, college hour, 2 to 3. Our meeting room is W1103, so it's right across from the Academic Enhancement Center, if people know where that is at. Two things I really wanted to say about the ASL Club before we wrap things up here and before I give my shout-outs. Thanks again for that, for allowing me to do that. I wanted to say, first of all, your story alone spoke to the fact that ASL is a language that can be used in any place. It doesn't matter where you work. You can work at a restaurant. You can work, in retail. You can, work anywhere. And so it's very important. If people here are, getting nursing degrees. As a nurse, you can use it. It doesn't matter what your degree is in. It doesn't matter where your job is in. It's something that's extremely important and can be used everywhere. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Another thing I wanted to mention, too, is just a friendly reminder that I know particularly for our RSO, but I think for most or all RSOs as well, it's open to everyone. It's not just open to current students. It's open to staff. It's open to faculty, alumni, and really anyone outside of GGC.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you got that 2 to 3 block. That's our grace period. We don't have any classes that time. Yep. So when you're on campus waiting for your 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock class, I really recommend it for sure.
Absolutely.
You're being a part of something that's that's different and that's new in this culture.
Yes.
That's a win-win.
Yes.
I would say.
Yes. Yes.
For sure.
All right, so...
Good for your shout-outs?
Yes, I am, yes. Absolutely. All right, so definitely I want to, shout out the GGC ASL Club. I want to give a shout-out and a special thank you to Mary Syracoulis. I mentioned her earlier, the full-time sign language interpreter here at GGC. She has been extremely key and a key element in getting this club, off the ground and helping with that. I want to give a special shout-out to Kingsley, who is our vice president, Megan, of course, our treasurer, and the one behind all the logo and all the flyers. Yes. I want to give a special shout out to a particular professor, Dr. Marie Ratchford. She's a criminal justice professor, and she's the one who suggested that I start it as a club instead of trying to get started as a class first. So I want to give a special shout out to her because, when I had... when I didn't have very much hope in getting it started as a class, she was the one to go behind me and, support me and say, you should definitely start it as a club and see where it can go from there. I want to give a special shout out to some other professors, Dr. Paproth, Dr. Carroll, Dr. Quinn, Dr. de Guzman, and I know I'm being...
And that's going to do it for the Grizzly Talk podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry we had to end the podcast so abruptly. We actually had some technical difficulties with the save files and the recording system of this podcast. But that was Stephanie Preston, of course, the American Sign Language Club. Very, very proud of what they're doing out there for that RSL for GTC. That's going to do it for the Grizzly Talk podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed today's show, and we'll hear you guys in the next podcast. Go Grizzlies!